The second season of Squid Game introduced us to interesting characters. Some were legendary, but others disappointed. That's what we'll discuss here. Today on CharlieTales, we'll make a ranking of the characters. We'll look at the best, the average, and the worst of the season. Ready? Let's begin. Let's start with the best characters. Here, I want to highlight Player 120. She's a transgender woman who entered the game to win money and complete her gender transition. This character stole everyone's heart the moment she appeared and was among the best. She brought a very human component to the story. In episode 5, she had a conversation with the elderly woman and talked about how difficult her life had been when she began her transition process, and also about the rejection from her family. The scene is intense, and as viewers, we truly understand the character's pain. This player proved to be very capable in the games, and I also loved that they gave her a military background. She stood out in Gi-hun's revolt, immediately taking leadership, and her presence was felt at all times. This character became someone very reliable and beloved. She reminds me a lot of Ali from Season 1. Interestingly, both saved Gi-hun in the doll game. It's clear the series included this scene to remind us of Ali. In this way, they presented this woman as a loyal support to the protagonist. Not someone who would be his best friend, but a solid support. Let's move on to another great character, the frontman. From the first season, he presented himself as enigmatic and interesting. Many of us wanted to see more of him and learn about him. In this regard, the series fully delivered, presenting a version of the frontman we hadn't seen before. He infiltrated the games as a simple player to monitor Gi-hun and ruin his plans. Here we saw him in action and got a glimpse of his personality, from the calmest moments to the darkest. It was evident to everyone that he would be a traitor. But despite this, his performance was so good that at times I even thought he might change. I didn't think he'd turn good, but maybe he'd develop some affection for Gi-hun and feel conflicted about betraying him. But no, he was lethal. He killed Gi-hun's friend before his eyes and left him utterly humiliated. He's a great villain and deserved all the applause. The recruiter. I love this character. He didn't last long, but the episode he got was legendary. The recruiter is one of the most beloved characters in the series. Many fell for him in the first season, but now he finally got more screen time. In his episode, we got to know him in depth. We learned that he's a sociopath who enjoys others' pain, despises the players, and likes to challenge people to macabre games. The character had a perfect conclusion in his battle with Gi-hun. They faced off in a game of Russian roulette, and every second of this scene was pure cinema. By far, the recruiter is one of the best characters. Among the best, we also have Thanos. He brought an element of chaos to the games, and in every scene he appeared, he stole the spotlight. At first, I thought he would stand out as a great villain because of what he did in the doll game. It seemed he would be a dangerous sadist, but the season took him in another direction, giving him a crazier, more comedic background. Far from disappointing me, I loved it. Honestly, I laughed a lot at his antics. My favorite part was in the carousel game when he kicked Yunsu off the team, but then we see Thanos in the room asking about him. The guy was so high that he didn't even realize what he had done. We can't deny he was fun and deserved more screen time. It's a shame he was killed off. Let's talk about the elderly woman. I also include her among the good characters. She didn't shine much in the games, but she was very charismatic. She had a very tender moment with the transgender woman, and also served as support for characters like the pregnant woman or even her son. The elderly woman isn't a character who stands out on her own, but her value lies in being a great support to other characters, and that gives her a very human value. She's very likable, and I'm sure everyone would feel heartbroken if she died. Now let's move on to the average characters of the season. Here, I have to place Gi-hun. I know it's controversial to put him here, but the truth is, he hasn't shined as much as in the first season. Back then, he had legendary scenes, like when he said goodbye to the old man in the marble game. He also had great fights, like when he faced Sang-woo in the finals. But in Season 2, he hasn't achieved anything on that level. Don't get me wrong, the character is fine. He had good moments like when he defeated the recruiter. That was his best victory of the season. I also loved his participation in the doll game. I think we all remember him shouting, "I've already been in these games." This phrase has even become a meme on the internet. The point is, I don't want you to confuse the word average with bad. Gi-hun is fine, but I had higher expectations, considering he's the protagonist. I'm also including Gi-hun's friend in the regular category. While his death was emotional, we can agree it doesn't come close to Ali's death in Season 1. It was missing that extra impact to make it the ultimate sacrifice of the season. I think they could have given him a game where he could really shine. That said, he did have some good moments. I love the conversation he had with Gi-hun in the darkness. It was a very heartfelt and well done scene. Once again, let me clarify. Being regular doesn't mean bad, but I can't rank this character higher because honestly, he wasn't one of the best. In the regular category, I'm also including the elderly woman's son, the pregnant woman, and the YouTuber. These three characters weren't bad, but they didn't stand out either. They had interesting storylines, but their development was minimal, and none of them had a standout moment in the season. Maybe the most notable of the three was the YouTuber, as he managed to kill Thanos, but that death was pretty mediocre, and I wouldn't call it a great scene. I'm also including players like 246 in the regular category. His backstory is very compelling. He entered the Squid Game to save his sick daughter. It's a simple but powerful narrative. However, let's be honest, he didn't do much this season. The only significant thing he did was die at the end. I say die because I'm pretty sure he's still alive. Most likely we'll see his story come to a conclusion in Season 3, so we'll have to wait. The same goes for other characters I'm not mentioning in this ranking. They have interesting stories, but they haven't been resolved yet. If I'm not mentioning them, it's because I consider them part of the regular category. Now let's move on to the worst characters of the season. Honestly, only one character earned a spot here, the police officer. This character was completely wasted. I'll be straightforward. In Season 2, he does nothing. He was valuable at the beginning, but once he got on the boat, his story became incredibly boring. Don't get me wrong, I love the police officer. His story is interesting, and ties in perfectly with the frontman. Plus, the scenes he shared with Gi-hun were fantastic. I wanted more of that, but instead, they abruptly cut his storyline and sent him off on a boat trip. In Season 1, despite having limited screen time, he managed to win over many fans. But in Season 2, it didn't work. They tried the same trick of giving him a side story with minimal scenes, but this time it fell flat. To fix this, they just needed to give him a moment to shine. For example, he could have defeated a villain in the series, like Gi-hun did with the recruiter. Or he could have taken out some guards or infiltrators in the organization. They needed to give us something, anything. At the very least, they should have shown him discovering the captain's betrayal and confronting him in a battle. That would have been an interesting conclusion, but it didn't happen. I'm placing the police officer in the bad category because unlike others like the pregnant woman or the YouTuber, he's a main character. Many of us had high expectations for him. His story has been building since Season 1. There's no excuse for not giving him proper development. They've had enough time. I seriously hope they're saving something great for this character in Season 3. If that doesn't happen, we'll be looking at the disappointment of the decade. That's all for today. If you liked the video, you'd really help me out by leaving a like. That would be legendary. Also, remember to subscribe to see more videos like this. Thanks for listening. My name is Charlie, and I'll see you in the future.